you all for coming today. Thank you for bearing with us when we had to cancel the parade. One year, I met with the band director and we canceled the parade. And then at 9 o'clock in the morning, the sun came out and it was beautiful. My phone did not stop ringing for 3 weeks. So I think I'm the only one that's praying for more rain. If you honor their memory in your hearts, the fallen will never be forgotten. If you follow their memory in your hearts, keep them in your hearts, and their memory will never be forgotten. I'm Dick Moody. I welcome you to the Danvers Memorial Day ceremony today. We have the opportunity to take part in a program that pays homage to our servicemen and service ladies who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for America. My thank you goes out to the Memorial Day Committee who put this event together, specifically Kelly Reyes-Teixeira, Marsha Coogan, Mary Jalbert, Leanne Puglio, Bill and Lois McKenzie. They've done a wonderful job coordinating everything, getting things together, decorating the facility, and I appreciate that very, very much. I'd also like to recognize State Representative Sally Cairns from the Massachusetts 13th Essex District. Sally, could you stand up and do a little dance? I'd also like to recognize Essex County Sheriff Kevin Coppinger. Kevin. You know, I feel like you and I are old friends, but the only time I ever see you is at events like this, I think. That shows you that you show up the wall. In addition, I'd like to welcome our town manager, Ms. Jill Cahill. Where is Jill? As well as the recently elected chairman of the Danvers Select Board, Duchore Dijoko. I had him promise he would not throw paper clips at me if I mispronounced his name. Jill, I also want to thank you for laying the flags with us the other day. That was good. Obviously, you don't have enough work to do, so let you rummage around the graveyards. I have a special attendee that I would like to have everybody recognize today. One of my personal friends who had been very, very ill, very sick, and today he and his wife made it to the celebration. Never thought that would happen. Could you give a round of applause for the Navy's Rich Farrell and his wife Kate? Thank you for coming. I'd like to give a special thanks too for the flag that's in the square, and I believe Kelly is still doing, Kelly's tree service is still doing it. Bill McKenzie can tell me if that's not the case. Kelly was the only veteran-owned tree service in the town of Danvers, and it's nice the way that they support us all the time. Okay, we had to cancel the parade. As you know, we canceled, but we had also selected a grand marshal to ride in the parade. And the program talks about Kevin Berridge, what he has done, why we selected him as a grand marshal. And I'd like to point out some of the highlights of his career. Kevin worked in the intelligence field, and he served in Germany, Italy, Iraq, Russia, where he provided support at the American Embassy. And following his Army duties, Sergeant Barrett continued to work in the intelligence field at Devens, and more recently as a civilian employee with the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. He and his wife Sarah reside in Danvers with their 3 children. Now, because he's in security, nobody really knows what he does. But that's the way it should be. Please help me give a heartfelt round of applause to today's Grand Marshal, Kevin Barrett. Kevin, please stand up. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Each year, our state representative visits us with a proclamation declaring that today will be celebrated and set aside as Memorial Day, that day in the year where most of us celebrate the veterans that have passed. I say most of us because the Gold Star parents celebrate it every day. Sally, could you come to the stage and read the proclamation for us?
Thank you, Dick. That is one directive I will follow. The dance, not so much. Good morning, everyone. On this very, I think, the most solemn day on the American calendar. I want to thank the committee for organizing today. And I want to thank, by the way, I also want to thank the committee and all of you for being nimble. We talk a lot in state and local government about being nimble, and that's what you were today, and I thank you. I think you absolutely made the right decision, so thank you very much. Congratulations to Kevin Barrett, our Grand Marshal, and I want to thank you, Dick Moody, for your tremendous contributions. I want to thank Kelly Reyes-Teixeira for your ongoing work to help veterans throughout the year, and of course today we are here to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice, who have given their very lives for the sake of our democracy to continue. So I thank them. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the marching band. Okay, so with that, honored to bring a proclamation from the Governor of the Commonwealth, and I will be selective because we have a big program, a long program, but a proclamation, whereas in the aftermath of the Civil War, communities around the nation gathered to honor the soldiers who had given their lives, marking the first Decoration Day. And whereas following World War I, the nation again united to honor those who died in service to our country. Renamed Memorial Day, the last Monday in May, is a time to remember and honor the men and women who gave their lives in all American wars and conflicts. I'll read the whole thing. And whereas throughout our history, thousands of Massachusetts residents have answered the call to serve, defending our nation, our freedoms, and our way of life. And whereas their courage, sacrifice, and devotion to duty represent the very best of the Commonwealth and continue to inspire generations. And whereas we pause to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice and recommit ourselves to honoring their legacy through service, unity, and gratitude. Now, therefore, I, Maura Healey, Governor of the Commonwealth, do hereby proclaim May 25, 26 to be Memorial Day, given at the Executive Chamber this first day of May in the year 2026, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 249th. Given today by Maura T. Healey, Kimberly Driscoll, William Francis Galvin. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Sally, I think you just went over about 5 seconds according to the bell. Right? It wasn't bad. At this point, I would like to two color guards here today, one from the Beverly Composite Squadron and one from the Sheriff's Department. They will be coming and presenting the colors together, and I would appreciate it if you can stand and notice the presentation of the colors. Color guard, present the colors. The American flag, symbol of the greatest place on earth. All of us veterans know that to be a fact, and all Americans should be so proud to stand and pledge their support for the ideals and the pride that the American flag holds. I would like to call upon the microphone a member of the United States Marine Corps, Town of Danvers Veteran Service Officer, Ms. Kelly Reyes Teixeira, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our country and to our flag. Kelly? Thank you. The Danvers High School Advanced Chorus has been under the guidance of its director, Alex Grover, and he's been a vital part of the Memorial Day program for years. Alex has done a magnificent job bringing together the sound that you are about to hear. May I present the beauty and the harmony of the Danvers High School Advanced Chorus with their rendition of the country's anthem, the Star Spangled Banner.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous
You know, it's hard to imagine, you may all sit. It's hard to imagine a patriotic ceremony without an expression of a prayer to God. We are indeed fortunate enough this morning to have with us the chaplain of the American Legion Post 180. He is also the commander of the Danvers VFW Post, Charles W. Davis, 2359, from the United States Army. Mr. Charles Gould. Chuck has been asked to provide an invocation for this occasion. May I present Mr. Charles Gould.
I've got a bit of a cold, so please forgive me if you can hear what I'm saying. Our nation pauses today to remember those in the military who have given their lives for freedom we enjoy. We pray you would have us all look to you for strength, comfort, and guidance. Be with all who serve in our armed forces. Bless them and their families. Grant your loving protection. Let peace prevail among all the nations, O God, especially let thy mercy rest upon our land. Even as we acknowledge with thanksgiving your past goodness to this country. It is your will, preserves the lives of men and women in uniform as they defend our citizenry. Most of all, we pray that you would turn their hearts of all, military and civilian, to your holy word, where we find the true prayer of peace for our sinful souls that surpass all understanding. Keep us repentant of sin. Move us to know that hold and treasure your saving grace, and this peace and hope eternal, we pray. Amen.
There is a custom that the military carries out each time we have a formal type of dinner or event such as this. And I'm sure that you've all noticed about the custom. You've all noticed that when you came in today, there was a small table at the top of the stairs. That's what's called the missing man table. And this table holds a very special place in our hearts for the veteran and his family. I will tell you, as I digress, I had to go to Iraq, and when I came back, my son and our daughter were still there. All three of us were there at the same time. And when I came home, I sat each night with my wife, and we waited for the phone to ring or the knock on the door. And I will tell you, I would give anything to be on the front lines and not be home waiting. You can't do anything when you wait. And my heart goes out to all those family members who have waited. Well, some of these veterans, unfortunately, were captured or didn't come home. And that's the purpose of the missing man table. And I'd like to call Antonio Bertuccius, United States Navy. Tony, come on up and tell us a little bit more about the missing man table.
Thank you, Colonel. The tradition of setting a separate table in honor of our prisoners of war and missing comrades has been in place since the end of the Vietnam War. The way this table is decorated is full of special symbols to help us remember our brothers and sisters in arms. The table is smaller than the others, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her aggressors. The white tablecloth draped over the table represents the purity of their response to our country calls to arms. The empty chair depicts an unknown face, representing no specific soldier, sailor, airman, or marine, but all who are not here with us. The round table show that our concern for them is never ending. The black napkin stands for the emptiness these warriors have left in the hearts of their families and friends. A single red rose reminds us of their families and loved ones. The red ribbon represents the love for our country, which inspired them to answer the nation's call. The candle and the yellow ribbon symbolize the everlasting hope for a joyous reunion with those yet unaccounted for. The slice of lemon on the place reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt on the plate represents the tears of their families. The inverted glass is to remind us that our distinguished comrades cannot be with us to drink or toast or join in the festivities of today. Every American still missing and unaccounted for from past conflicts is entitled to one certainty, that he or she will never be forgotten. Throughout American history, many men and women have bravely served, sacrificing much to preserve our country and protect their democratic ideals that make this nation a beacon of hope. Some of those who answered the call to service were captured in conflict and imprisoned by our enemies, and many remain still missing. As a nation, we are committed to honor their sacrifice, and whenever possible, we will bring them home. So let us pause to give thanks for those who have been returned and renew our pledge to those who are still missing and their families. You are not forgotten.
You know, isn't it amazing how many times you pick up the newspaper or read or hear in the news about someone who had perished years ago, and they have now identified his body and they brought him home. So you never can tell if there is still someone in your family missing. This might possibly be brought to a closure someday. And again, we're going to call on the advanced chorus to add to our ceremony by singing a very special rendition of God Bless America. Very, very nice. I grew up in Danvers. Many of my childhood friends reside here, still reside here. We can always tell if they're childhood friends because somebody will yell out, "Hi, Dickie." And they know, oh, he's known me for a while. Memorial Day ceremony would not be complete, however, without the town joining in. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the podium the new chairman of the Danvers Select Board, Ducero Joko, to say a few words. Dee, I'm going to get it down perfect the next time we stand.
You did well, Mr. Woody. Good morning, everyone. It's a true honor and a humbling responsibility to stand before you today. As the new chairman of the Danvers Select Board. I'm deeply grateful for the trust placed in me, and it's especially meaningful that my first official remark as chair is on Memorial Day. While Mother Nature may have changed the plans this morning, she has not changed our purpose. Though the parade could not proceed, it is inspiring to see our community gather here because Memorial Day is not defined by perfect weather or a ceremony alone, but it is remembrance, gratitude, and unity. Today we gather not only as neighbors and friends, but as Americans, united in honoring the brave men and women who have given their life in service of our country. Their courage, sacrifice, and devotion to something greater than themselves form the foundation of the freedoms that we enjoy every single day. This year's observance carries added meaning as we approach the 250th anniversary of our nation. For nearly 2.5 centuries, generations of Americans have answered the call to serve and defend the enduring ideals of liberty, democracy, and opportunity. Many gave everything so that future generations, including all of us here today, could live in freedom and hope. On behalf of the town of Danvers, welcome to our annual Memorial Day ceremony. We offer our deepest gratitude to our veterans, our active service members, and our military families. And we especially honor those we remember today. Their sacrifice, yes, Mr. Moody, will not be forgotten. May we carry forward their legacy not only in words, but in how we live, through service to one another, compassion to our neighbors, gratitude for our freedoms, and faith in the future of our community and our country. May God bless the memories of those who gave their lives to our nation. Thank you very much.
Very nice speech, thank you. Excuse me. I would like to recognize all the United States military veterans of Danvers who are in the audience today. I was going to ask you to all stand. I didn't realize we had so many in the band. Could you please stand and be recognized? If you have served our country, please stand. Now, I'm not sure, is there any World War II veterans still there? Because if there are, we'll give him a place of honor. Okay, how about Korean War vets? Okay. And if there are any Gold Star families or wives here, could you please stand and be recognized? And as I said earlier, every day is Memorial Day for them. Okay. I would like to invite Jeff Daniels. Where'd you go? And Jeff is going to have his high school band pay a tribute to the servicemen and women who have gone before and their families who mourn for their loved ones. Under Jeff's direction, the band will play a tribute to the armed forces medley. Jeff, over to you.
United States Army, United States Army.
when they're inside, what are they called? They have a sitting band? Very nice, excellent. You know, as you know, 2026 is the 250th birthday of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And the cities and towns across the country are celebrating this milestone. And we thought it would be appropriate for someone who is known for his comprehensive knowledge of the country, his experience with the history of the community, to share some of these great thoughts about this event today. Those of you that have seen a handsome man in a brown pointed hat walking through town over the years and wondered who this guy is, will now get an opportunity to hear his words of wisdom. For years, Dave McKenna and I have worked tirelessly on issues of the Danvers Historical Society. And he is a genuine asset to our community. As the program explains, Dave spearheaded numerous improvements in town, renovating the Page House, the Rebecca Nurse Homestead, and the Derby Summer House over at Glen Magna. His knowledge of what is going on and what has happened in the history of this town is truly amazing. I want you to leave your telephone number for everybody so that they can call with questions. He has been one of the longest serving members of the Danvers Alarm List and has taken part in numerous battle reenactments. Dave is an active member of the Massachusetts Archaeological Society, and he has identified and registered at least 3 historic archaeological sites in town. Today, I'd like to ask Dave to focus on the history of Danvers a little bit over the past 250 years and share any stories with us on this anniversary celebration. Please help me welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Dave McKenna.
Live up to what Dick has told you, but let's give it a go anyway. I was asked to speak to you today about what Memorial Day means as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the creation of the United States. And I asked myself, what in the heck can I say that could even hold a candle to the sacrifice of many men and women who gave up their lives and futures on the altar of freedom, not knowing if they would ever be home for Christmas ever again. Especially today, the thousands who never did make it home for Christmas ever again. Or the sacrifice of the families keeping vigil at home, not knowing of the horrible memories of the letter saying, regret to inform you, your son or daughter will not be coming home again, ever. Memorial Day is a day to remember. To remember those who never came home and what they gave up so we could live in freedom. Not a day after to enjoy a beer and a burger in the backyard grill. A day to remember. A little history that you can read in more detail in Richard Trash's Danvers Archive reports, but just give a brief view of it. Memorial Day originated after the Civil War to honor the fallen soldiers by decorating their graves with flowers, initially known as Decoration Day. It was officially proclaimed May 5th, 1868 by General John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic and observed on May 30th at Arlington National Cemetery. While many towns claim the early traditions, the first widespread organized observance occurred on May 5th, 1866 in Waterloo, New York, which was declared the official birthplace of the holiday by Congress in 1966. It took that long to make it official. Unfortunate, but that's the case. Here in Danvers, our Memorial Day observances proudly go back to the beginning. The first Memorial Day ever served in Danvers was in 1866 on November 30th. The first book, I got that, I'm sorry, 1870. The monument at Town Hall was dedicated to the memory of the over 90 sailors and soldiers who died in service that lived in Danvers. Full 2% of our population gave their lives during that war. It was not until 1868 that General John A. Logan declared May 30th as the time to decorate graves. The date likely chosen because flowers would be in full bloom in that season. Originally honoring only Civil War dead, the holiday expanded out to World War I to honor all U.S. military members who had died in service. It became an official federal holiday in 1971 with the Uniform Monday Holidays Act establishing it as being observed the last Monday of May. While the North and South originally honored their dead on different days, the holiday eventually became a unified day of remembrance. Remember, 250 years, 1 month, and 6 days ago, a post rider pounded into Danvers on a lathered horse with an urgent message that on April 19th, the church bells began to ring everywhere, sounding the alarm for the militia to assemble because the King's troops had fired on the militia in Lexington and killed several of them. The men of Danvers, some 300 of them from both North and South Parish and Out Peabody, which was part of Danvers then, took up arms and marched south toward Lexington to face the most powerful army in the world, pledging their lives, their future, and their sacred honor. They ran over 20 miles in 4 hours and caught up with the English troops retreating to Boston in a place called Monotony, now Arlington. And they were caught in a vicious crossfire and suffered the wrath of the weary redcoats. Angry at being shot at by the colonials, they considered second-class citizens. 7 young Danvers men, all in their 20s or younger, gave their lives, sacrificing their future for something they knew was bigger and more important than they were. A country of their own, where their families could live in freedom, free of the tyranny of the Hanoverian King of England, freedom to govern themselves and forge their own destiny. When the smoke cleared that Sunday afternoon, Samuel Cook, Benjamin Deland Jr., Ebenezer Goldthwaite Jr., Henry Jacobs Jr., Pearlie Putnam, George Southwick Jr., and Jonathan Webb, and made the ultimate sacrifice to get us a nation. Before the improbable revolution ended 5 long, starving, freezing years later in Yorktown, 13 more Danvers men would give their lives to fulfill that impossible dream. And today, a few days shy of 250 years after the Danvers Town Meeting voted that if the Honorable Continental Congress of the Safety of the United Colonies declare themselves independent of the Kingdom of Great Britain, we, the inhabitants of this town, do solemnly engage with our lives and fortunes to support them in the measure. We come together to remember and to honor the sacrifices. This is a page, I'm sorry. I hate reading this, but I didn't want to forget anything. Too much important here. Remember the courage and sacrifice of these men of Danvers who bought us our freedom with their blood and their very lives. A quarter of a millennium later, that dream has survived invasions, the Civil War, dictators, 2 world wars, police actions, terrorist attacks, both foreign and domestic. A republic, Benjamin Franklin said, if you could keep it. And how have we kept it? Are we all men making pretty speeches? I don't think so. By singing patriotic songs and posting memes on Facebook? Hardly. We kept it because our sons and daughters, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers have been willing to put on the uniform of their country and put their lives on the line to preserve our way of life. More than 1.3 million Americans of every race, color, nationality, gender or creed have laid down their lives for our freedom. More than 200 of them just from Danvers. During the Civil War, poor record keeping, especially in the South, the numbers are not firm, but between 620 and 750,000 people died, 90 from Danvers. During World War II, 405, 399 military died, 55 of them from Danvers. You can see their names on the plaques in the hall, the town hall. World War I, 116,516, 15 from Danvers. Vietnam, 58,225 from Danvers. Korean War, 36,574, another 5 from Danvers. In the Revolutionary War, again, poor record keeping, hard to keep track, between 25 and 70,000 estimated to have died, 20 of them from Danvers. And at post 9/11 wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all the other little skirmishes we've been in, over 7,000 have passed away, given their lives, including our very own Karen Martin, who was murdered on the 9/11 terrorist attack, a war victim just as certainly as any uniformed military personnel. Please remember them. And just this past weekend, I'm sure you all heard the news that about the 44 young soldiers believed to have been part of Arnold's expedition to Quebec, all of their teens and 20s apparently having succumbed to diseases and then buried in mass grave in Cortlandt Street burial ground in Lake George, New York, which was discovered during a highway construction project, were reinterred with full military honors in the new Memorial Plaza at Lake George, Battlefield Park, New York, escorted there by military, reactivated militias, companies, and the ever-present Patriot Guard riders were also present, I believe, in Danvers when we laid a local soldier, Brad Voda, to rest several years ago. Let us remember them all. I think we all had to memorize Lincoln's Gettysburg Address at one point or another when we were in school. I'm sure many of you still remember his closing statement. It is rather for us here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take the incredible devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Remember them all as we come together for our 160th Memorial Day exercise here in Danvers. I came across this poem not too long, but I think it was very appropriate for this occasion. The title, You Won't Be Home Tonight. You'll fire casts a feeble glow against the room's dim light, but Johnny marched away to war. He won't be home tonight. He bravely answered duty's call and went to join the fight with 3 young layers of worry, but he won't be home tonight. The moonlight paints the huddled forms against the snow so stark and white, and foxhole hungry, wet and cold, no, he won't be home tonight. But he dreams about the folks at home around a Christmas tree so bright, but the enemy guns like thunder roar, he knows he won't be home tonight. He wishes he were home with them, sharing the holiday delight with Mom and Dad and Mary Lou, but he won't be home tonight. And back at home, the letters came, so faithfully he would write. But then one day the letters stopped, so they prayed he'd be home tonight. And then today the telegraph came, they wish they could unwrite. If Johnny was a hero, he won't be home tonight. Please remember them, never forget their sacrifices. Seems somehow fitting that we observe this Memorial Day under rainy skies. I know it ruined the parade, but seems almost fitting as the heavens shed a tear for the fallen. One last thought in closing. Honor due them, give it to them. It is through them that we're free. Remember and never forget. And one final request, please do not applaud. I want a moment of silence to remember them. Thank you.
Very nice, Dave. Thank you. On November the 19th, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln gave a short speech, which you've heard part of it just a minute ago, at the dedication of the Gettysburg National Cemetery. 4 months after the Battle of Gettysburg, 10,000 of the 624,000 Americans who were killed in the Civil War lost their lives at Gettysburg. It was the single bloodiest battle of the year, of the war. Lincoln spoke the words of his hastily prepared message. Little did he know that the speech would become one of the most quoted, best loved pieces of writing in American history. This morning, 6th grade student Peter Formica from St. John's Prep will read this masterpiece to us. And as he is reading, hear the words and embrace the message that our president delivered 163 years ago in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Peter?
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives so that their nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, and we cannot consecrate, we cannot hollow this ground. These brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they who fought here have thus so far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth and freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
That was beautifully read. Come on, Field. Because I'd like to use him in future events. Okay, at this time I call the Danvers High School marching band to play a very fitting piece. Jeff, over to you for the Battle Hymn of the Republic. don't think it was the air conditioning or the heat. It sounded like about 10 or 20 minutes ago, it was pouring outside. I think we made the right decision, don't you? All right, now for a very serious moment. Over the past year, many of our family members have passed away. This morning, Mrs. Mary Jalbert, one of the Danvers Veterans Council, will read the names of those veterans from Danvers who have died since the last year's Memorial Day. The names of the deceased will be read from each war and to honor the soldiers who served in that conflict. And the Danvers alarmists will fire their muskets from outside. Hopefully we can hear them. Following the reading, we will have taps played. Mary, would you like to take over at this time? Thank you. Mary? Give me another bell in about 1 minute.
No, I think
We'll just wait.
the following veterans served during the World War II era. Dominic Benedetto, Donald Helm, Ralph LaBelle, George Macros, Paul Scupa. We should be hearing a firing. The following veterans served during the Korean era. Nicholas Boudreau, Arthur Caldwell, David Cronin, Nicholas DeCola, Joseph DiBartello Jr., Philip Donatelli, Jeremiah Dugan Jr., Joseph Gallant, Robert Gauthier, Robert LaFleur, Alfred LaRue, Albert Malatesta, Joseph Barton, Roger Mitchell, Charles Moore Jr., George Norman, Charles Peterson, Richard Pelletier, George Stevens. The following veterans served during peacetime: Warren Anderson, Richard B., Edward Zazinski, Leo Fitzgerald, Donald Fortunato, John Paul Jones, Michael Merry, David Willett, Joseph Palmer, Bruce Phillips, Charles Root Jr., James Sawchuck, Richard Hooley, Jeremiah Ubikian. The following veterans served during the Vietnam era: Robert Alaconis, Ronald Bartolucci, Daniel Beecher, Bruce Burrows, Jeffrey Butler, William Chambers, Richard Cragen, Stephen Dagata Jr., Robert Day, Francis Della Monica. Francisco Frank Diaz. Peter DePietro. Victor Durzak. Samuel Favazza. Kenneth Finkano. Anthony Gadarza. Donald Gallen. Robert Gothier. Richard Julie. Winthrop Knox III. Bruce Langmaid. Robert LaPointe. Paul Miller. Francis Massette. Renee Pelletier. Diane Poulin. Edward Sanuk. James Speaker. John Sudak. Carl Trinfaglia. Anthony Turco. Keith Volkaren. Donald Yeaton. This veteran served during the Persian Gulf era. Christopher Lisrow.
Chuck Gould, could you come up for a benediction, please?
Almighty merciful God, remember before you in this moment our departed comrades. Recall with reverence the good deeds they accomplished. Beyond these who fought a good fight for the just cause. Comrades both in war and in peace, who served this country with dignity and with honor, may they rest in peace. May we consecrate our hearts and lives to our God and to this country, and to the ideas and principles and hopes of those who we honor, who have served faithfully and now rest.
If all of you could take your seats for a second, we have just a couple of announcements. He's been restricted to a wheelchair for the last several years. He had a problem about a week and a half ago. He fell in his home. He lives alone. Took quite a while before a couple of members of the fire department found him. They rushed him to Beverly Hospital. He is now in Beverly Hospital. They were able to revive him, and he's resting fairly comfortably, but we don't know the extent of his injuries because he has trouble remembering. And just keep him in your prayers. Mark is very active in the VFW and the veterans in town, and that was a shame that happened. The other thing I'd like to speak, this one's from my heart. In 1919, the American Legion was started. Teddy Roosevelt's son was one of the 4 founding members. It was founded in Paris in 1919. The Danvers American Legion, Post 180, was founded and chartered in 1919 as well. We are about to close. I am the commander of that Legion post. For the last 6 months or so, we have been trying to get people to come to our meetings. And every month, we get 2 or maybe 3 people. It's not enough for a quorum. We can't really do anything. And yet, Danvers has about 20 paid up members. I have sent letters. I have sent emails. I have called. I have visited. I've done about everything that I can do to try to get the members to come to our meetings. I have offered a change of venue, change of date, change of time, but we haven't been able to be successful in getting people because of other things going on in their lives to come out on the second Thursday night of the month to meet. I got in touch with the District American Legion commander. He has been working with me for the last several months to see what we can do. We can transfer it to another post. We can transfer it to what they call the at-large post. You're not a member of a specific unit, but you're still a member of the Legion. But the thing that's kind of heartbreaking to me is that we've had a post in Danvers for 107 years, and now we're about to close the door. We have to turn in our charter. If you walk into the post, you'll see 2 big pictures of the 2 World War I veterans who died in service that we commemorated our post to. And yes, it breaks my heart to be the commanding officer that has to close the door. But you know, like everybody else, you can't do it all yourself. And there is a minimum requirement. So I'm just letting you folks know, if you see anything in the paper or the news over the next couple of months, that there will no longer be a Danvers American Legion post. That's the reason. Now, on a brighter side, every Thursday morning from 9 to 10, I run a veterans social up at the senior center. We do many, many things. One of the most unusual things is the recitation of the This Day in History. You'll be amazed at what happened on this day throughout the years, from 500 all the way up. The guys love it, the girls love it, and we have a good time. There's something to eat, something to drink. It lasts about an hour. We've got about 20 or 30 people every single week coming. If anybody is available, and even if you're not a veteran, if you are a family member of a veteran, come on down. Now, the people at the senior center are going to scream because our room only holds so many people. but I don't care. We'll take over other rooms. We're the military. We can do that. But it's Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock. So if you think you can make it out, come on out. It's a lot of fun. At the conclusion of today's celebration, if we can all march down to the VFW, which is doing alive and well, right down on Conant Street, across from CVS. Our auxiliary is putting on a collation for us. Hot dogs, chips, drinks, whatever. So try to make it down. It's kind of a nice way to end the Memorial Day celebration. My final thought. If anybody knows me, you know I have lots of final thoughts. This one's important though. How many times as a veteran do people come up to you and say thank you for your service? Now I have a ball cap that says Air Force Retired. So they see that and they, wonderful, the young kids all the way up, thank you for your service. And it means the world to me, as I'm sure it means the world to every other veteran in this place. The one thing that we have to keep in mind, after you come home from serving, and this fits probably about 95% of us, demons start attacking you. They attack your body, they attack your mind, they attack your memory. And these demons are products of what you have seen, what you've gone through. My daughter was a nurse. She served in Iraq. She saw the injured coming in. She saw a 27-year-old Iraqi girl holding her 4-year-old daughter with her arm fallen off. She had to take it from the mother and bring it in. That picture in her mind stayed with her for years. She got out in 2005, stayed with her for years. Every veteran that serves overseas or even in the States, they come back a changed person. So when somebody says to you, thank you for your service, keep in mind it's not just that 1 year, 2 years, 23 years, whatever you serve, that we're thinking about. We're thinking about all those little demons that continue to creep up and remind you of some of those days and nights that you couldn't sleep after you got back. So it's something to think about. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I pray that God allows us to remember the bravery of those comrades that did not make it home. But let's hope we can continue to have Memorial Days and Veterans Day for a long, long time. Thank you for coming.